Every decade, it seems, has some location that was the place to be. It was the center of decadence. You know, think back to the 1890s. It was Paris, Moulin Rouge. 1920s, it was Berlin. Think Cabaret, the Weimar Republic. In the 1950s, it was Hollywood. It's the silver screen. In the 1990s, it was Moscow, Russia. And I was there. I've been collecting my stories of my time in Russia, working to get them published as a book. They're vignettes of my life, the people I encountered, and stories about the many strange experiences I had. And I hope you enjoy them. If you press like and subscribe, leave a comment in the comments section, and after I receive 50 comments or 500 views, I'll randomly select a few of the people that left comments to receive some Soviet and modern Russian swag I collected during my time there. And maybe, hey, it'll encourage me to record yet another story. This story is, the title is taken from the Run DMC song, You Be Illin'. You Be Illin', party time with the Ils of North Korea, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong Il. In the history of the postmodern world, there have been very few transfers of power from a father to son in a ruling dictatorship. One of them occurred twice in the most closed and isolated society on earth, North Korea. When Kim Il-sung died, the people of North Korea went into mass hysteria. North Koreans were shown on CNN screaming, crying, yelling, beating their chests, tearing their hair and clothes. I wanted to witness this as closely as possible. For an American to go to North Korea, it is virtually impossible. There's still a state of war between our nations. Since I was always searching for more opportunities of strange experiences in Moscow, I decided to visit the embassy of North Korea to sign the condolence book. The transition began when Kim Il-sung died in August 1994, about a week after meeting President Jimmy Carter. He was known domestically as the Great Leader, and little was known about his son, the future head of state, Kim Jong Il, who has subsequently also died. He was known as the Dear Leader when his father was alive. Kim Il-sung is the Great Leader because he is better than a president or king. According to every North Korean source, he is the embodiment of all good in the nation. He is credited to everything from bumper harvests of rice to the changing of light bulbs in your apartment hallway. About 3 years after his death, he was voted to the office of Eternal President. North Korea is the only nation to now officially employ the deceased. After Kim Il-sung helped kick out the Japanese and establish the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in 1945, he instituted an incredible cult of personality. With the help of the Soviets, Kim was elevated from mortal to Korean super god. A god is eternal, and the death of old man Kim certainly proved either A, the theory is wrong, or B, Kim was no deity. According to all North Korean sources, this proves that the theory is wrong. The North Koreans have a giant embassy compound that overlooks the Moscow skyline. This would be a great opportunity to witness firsthand these enigmatic people that are so anti-American. I grabbed my American friend Jim to visit their embassy, to snoop around and see their people during this historic time of transition. He was game. The embassy consisted of about half a dozen ugly white boxy buildings. Jim and I told the embassy staff that we are American students from Moscow State University, which coincidentally was across the street. We said we were deeply sorry for the loss of their great leader. We wanted to pay our respects, and I did all the talking because my Russian was better than Jim's. The embassy staff was visibly impressed and moved that to receive these Americans at the main gate. Citizen ambassadors of the largest and most imperialist nation are here to pay homage to the great leader and the nation in this dark hour. We were pointed to the main building. It was a block away, and it was a very hot and humid August day. I began to sweat on the walk. Then the sweat really began to flow from my pores when I realized what I was doing and leading Jim and I into. I'm on the territory of the North Korean embassy in Moscow. There is a state of war between North Korea, South Korea, and the United States. These people still strongly consider us the imperial running dogs of capitalism. Every few years, they randomly shoot U.S. soldiers on patrol at the demilitarized zone in Panmunjom. There was even a case where 2 U.S. soldiers at the Korean DMZ were hacked to death with axes by North Korean soldiers. It is important to note that Jim has the best sense of humor of anyone I've ever met. He can keep the quips coming, and he always keeps everyone in stitches. My biggest fear was that he would say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and Jim would definitely not let me down. Jim starts talking and wouldn't stop. Maybe he was nervous. He was hungry, definitely. After all, this was our lunch break. He kept asking if there was going to be a buffet at the funeral. He told me how he didn't want to eat dog. He didn't want to have pickled cabbage, as he was afraid of flatulence, either at the embassy or later at his office. I understood his concerns, but was too nervous to fully comprehend that he might have been the wrong person to bring to the embassy to sign a condolence book for a dead god. We finally get to the main building where we saw one of the largest paintings ever. It was at least 25 feet high and had a picture of their now dead great leader Kim Il-sung standing on the top part of some mountain plateau. There was no way of not looking at it constantly. We were greeted by North Korean diplomats / intelligence officers / security. They were sizing us up. I introduced ourselves in Russian and gave the BS line that we were students at Moscow State. And here in the vein of friendship, brotherhood, anti-war, peace, love, and harmonious spirit, the main greeter immediately seemed skeptical of our good intentions. Maybe the greeter figured out I was going out of curiosity and Jim was waiting there for the buffet. Wait, no, Jim wasn't there. Wait, anyway, maybe he didn't figure out about the buffet. A North Korean diplomat who resembled Oddjob from the James Bond movie Goldfinger decided to interrogate us in flawless English. What is it that you study at Moscow State University? Where did you both come from? We said it was New York because he was probably never there. How long have you been in Moscow? Why are you choosing to honor the great leader? What does his death mean to you? Jim, of course, said, a nice all-you-can-eat Korean buffet. Oddjob was convinced we were CIA spies attempting some covert activity. Yeah, whatever. We were just here for a good time. Finally, Oddjob left us, and we waited on a sofa. And we wait. We realize that we have no idea what is going on, and that our cordial Korean hosts had no idea what to do with us. Jim started in a not very soft voice to keep asking about the buffet. He was getting hungry and wanted to know when we would sign the book for Kim Dim Sum and then can eat. After a very long 30 minutes under the gaze of old man Kim on the wall, smiling from the mountain, Oddjob returned with a stern look on his face. Oddjob told us what was about to happen. He explained he's going to escort us to the condolence book. We were going to write some tribute to the dead guy, and then write, not sign, our names. He kept repeating, you will only write and not sign your name here, about 32 times in English. Evidently, it was crucial to write and not to sign our names, but we had no idea why he was making such a big fuss. I got it the first time. Now go throw your hat at a statue, Oddjob, I thought to myself. Okay, come over here and write your tribute in the book. Do not sign your names. Jim wrote a simple sentence. With the greatest respect for your achievements and your legacy of coolness, which will shine in these dark times. Then we were told, yet again, to write, not sign, our names. My eyes widen, though, as I get to the book, and I read what Jim wrote. I was hoping that this would be untranslatable. Oddjob told us to sit back down on the cheap sofa. After seeing what was written, I started to get very nervous. What does this mean? What is coolness? Describe it to me, Oddjob said. Poor Jim proceeds to explain that it's a very high compliment to the great leader. And he was then taken to where the condolence book was located and interrogated alone. Interrogated! I wondered if he told Oddjob about the Fonz from Happy Days. Cool! Hey! Here we are defaming the name of their deity / leader. I immediately realized there was not going to be a buffet in our future. Somehow, Jim talked his way out of what he wrote. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, came this horrible music. This sound of high-pitched organ music with a terrible vibrato resonated in the lobby. It was a haunting melody I will never forget. It was a taste of North Korean funeral music. Oddjob approached us and we stood up. He knew that this was the moment of truth. We were finally going to sign this now defamed condolence book. Odd explained in great detail, of which I will spare the reader, what we were expected to do. But basically he told us we were going to walk in the hall, go up to the picture of the great leader, pay tribute to the picture, and then sign the condolence book. What do you mean, pay tribute to the picture of Kim Il-sung? I asked. You will bow to the picture, then go to the right, and finally sign your name in the condolence book. Our American faces just turned 5 shades whiter. All of the North Korean embassy staff proceeded to grab us by the arms. We thought we were being hustled out for the coolness comment, but instead, they put black armbands on us. So now we have to bow to a picture of some dead guy while wearing black armbands. The only consolation was that no one in the world would ever witness this degrading moment we brought upon ourselves. That hope was extinguished when we entered the memorial room and almost had cardiac arrests. The cardiac arrest was not from the 4-foot picture of the great leader's big glowing smile, and it was not from the hundreds of floral arrangements and ribbons that surrounded it. We looked straight ahead. We saw 2 North Korean television cameras and press photographers that also lined the room with their lenses aimed at the running dog capitalist Americans. It was going to be headline news in North Korea of the Americans who came to pay tribute to the great leader. All hopes of getting a security clearance for a government job were shot out of the water. We march up to the picture and flowers. We do a quick and not very low bow to the picture. Then move over to the book, sign our names. I turn to my right, and I am facing a long line of people waiting for me. I realized this was the receiving line, and I was eye to eye with the North Korean ambassador. I was not prepared to meet or speak with anyone. I thought I would just sign the book. I was startled, but luckily the synapses clicked in my head, and after an awkward pause of a few seconds, I realized I needed to say something to the ambassador. I was mortified that our visit would be broadcast by a huge propaganda machine throughout North Korea. I was sweating profusely and extremely nervous, but I regained my composure, rapidly stood up straight, and realized I have a job to do as a representative of the imperialist running dogs of capitalism. I spoke in Russian to the ambassador and said, "We are very sorry about the death of Kim Il-sung. We hope that our peoples can have a better relationship and that we can build peace and understanding in the future between our nations." And then I got my Russian seriously mixed up. Instead of saying, "You have our deepest sympathies," I said, "You have our deepest illnesses," as the words sound very much alike in Russian. The ambassador looked at me rather surprised, but figured out what I was trying to say. And he said, "Spasibo," that's thank you in Russian. It was really a triumph for citizen diplomacy. I felt as if I had spoken on behalf of the then 260 million American citizens. My imagination started running wild. I felt as I was playing a major role in U.S.-North Korean relations at this moment. I shook the ambassador's hand and said in Russian, "Spasibo," and gave him a small bow. I then proceeded down the line of 15 or so people and said, "Spasibo," thank you. They all responded back, "Spasibo, spasibo, spasibo, spasibo." Then Jim said, "Thank you" to each and every person too, in Russian, and received a response of, "Thank you," all immediately after I did. It became an echo chamber of spasibo, 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 spasibo. It sounded very funny, as the word for thank you in Russian, spasibo, sounds kind of like placebo. Once we finished, Jim and I regrouped outside the funeral room. We kept our cool and calmly walked out of the main building and the gate. And we walked with our head up high. And I thought to myself, maybe the North Koreans will think of America in a more positive light now because of what we did. Maybe we are true catalysts of peace between the two nations. I was getting warm and fuzzy. And then Jim looked at me and said, "You know what the bad thing is about going to a dead North Korean leader's funeral is?" "No." "After half an hour, you'll want to go back to another dead North Korean leader's funeral." So I hope you enjoyed that story, You Be Illin, and I hope you take time to comment and like and subscribe to my site. And after I get 500 views of this video and 50 comments or so, I'll randomly pick people from the comments and send them some of my Soviet and modern Russian swag that I have. I have quite a bit of it. Some really cool stuff. Thank you, take care, and stay safe. And I look forward to seeing